we do this nowadays on a societal level as well. And it's because like everything's centralized that there is the possibility for people to kind of be self-righteous and act this out on a societal level, which I consider to be a really bad problem, because then if you do mess up in your own life, you hurt yourself, you know, at least like it's not that it spreads across an entire nation. And nowadays, if you have ever greater nations and supranations, and some like a caste or a cabal of a few people mess up because they inevitably will, as you just explained, you know, because they don't have the information, economically speaking, again, you know, to kind of steer the system in the right direction, because they just cannot have the information, as Hayek told us. You know, it's not possible to kind of distribute everything and then also try to repackage it and know what to do. And so then you mess up entire lives of so many people that you never know, you know. And so it goes back to this Jordan Peterson quote, where he also says, you know, tidy up your own room before you kind of try to fix the world.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today it's episode 43 of the Store of Bitcoin podcast. We're recording on October 27th, right around block height 921,000. Today we're joined by a standout figure in the Bitcoin and financial history, Pascal Hügli. Pascal's path covers political philosophy, financial journalism, and sound money principles. He gained notice through sharp critiques of fiat systems, then expanded with Less Noise, More Signal, his newsletter and podcast, unpacking liquidity, reserves, and policy impacts on hard assets. On X and Substack, he's built a following by delving into the history of money's failures, the flaws of central banking, and Bitcoin's promise to end the fiat dark age while championing libertarian ideals for financial sovereignty and escape from government monetary control. What sets Pascal apart is his blend of philosophical rigor and practical insight, translating critiques of socialism into compelling cases for Bitcoin as a tool for true economic freedom, all with balanced, data-driven, conviction-free of sensationalism. Pascal, it's great to have you here.
Yes. Hey, cool guys. Thanks a lot for having me. That's amazing. And thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, and as always, a warm welcome to our own Alessandro.
Yeah, thanks, Johan, and welcome, Pascal. Looking forward for this conversation.
Yes, amazing. Cool to be here.
All right, Pascal. We just came back from Lugano, Alessandro and me, and we also spoke with Joe Bryan there. But we wanted to ask you the same question we did to him, and I really, I want to know what your answer will be. But what do you think is the problem, and what do you think is the solution to that problem?
Yeah, thanks a lot for this question. I mean, Joe Bryan, I've seen his video. I think Ricardo Salinas, you know, the one guy I co-authored the book with, he also really liked Joe's video a lot. I think he even translated it into Spanish. So yeah, very, very amazing. Obviously, as I said, I've seen the video myself. He's done a great job in explaining things, but maybe I would tackle the question a little differently, in the sense of like, maybe it's best to differentiate between two different things, you know, the economic problem as such, and then maybe you can even go deeper. And I would argue it's like a philosophical problem that just haunts humanity ever since, you know, and just as humans as we are, you know. And maybe first, if I go into the economic problem, I mean, as I said, Joe does a great job in explaining this. You know, it's really probably the institutionalization or the institutionalized debasement of money, which is happening nowadays. You know, and this has really become institutionalized over decades, even centuries, as we also try to explain in our book. and it's almost hidden away that most people are just taking it for granted that the system sort of has to function this way. Money has to be debased ever more for economic growth to be there, and just like it's taken as a given. And I think that's probably the problem there is. At the same time, I guess by writing the book, and you said it yourself in the introduction, I have libertarian principles. I could consider myself a libertarian, but then at the same time, I also started somewhat appreciating today's system in and of itself. You know, that it is always nuanced and maybe not as monocausal as some Bitcoiners sometimes believe. You know, I think there's also a lot of positives to the fiat system in and of itself. It's always the question, like counterfactual wise, would we be at the same place if we hadn't had the fiat system as such, you know? But undoubtedly, like our world today, it's really well off, you know. Like I often hear this from my parents who have these fights. Maybe you guys know it too with your parents, you know, like boomers, and they're telling me, look, you live the best life ever. You can fly around all around the world, you know, for stuff that we have never been able to do. You can travel as a digital nomad. And so you're telling me that this fiat system is just the worst of all time. I don't buy it, you know. And I'm like, yeah, it's true, even though maybe you know, the life could be a lot better if there wasn't fiat. You know, maybe we don't know this. It's counterfactuals that we're arguing here. But this is certainly something that I started to appreciate. And then to me, the problem is like, it is still a problem, but it had all these potentially positive side effects as well. And I think you can really well describe it in the words of, I think, Goethe, which is like this writer, you know, polymath out of Germany originally. And he called it like a Faustian bargain, or like a fruitful catastrophe. You know, it's like a catastrophe, but it's fruitful. In German, the pun works even better because it's fruchtbar Katastrophe, you know, and then it's furchtbar, which is like maybe, I don't know how it works in Dutch, but this is really showing to me that there's like two sides to this medal. And then, yeah, but as I said, I mean, that's what I've grown to appreciate, but I still consider it to be a problem. You know, it's like the centralization of money. It's the pretense of knowledge. Well, it's described by Hayek, that we human beings always try to like try to play God in a sense. You know, we kind of think we have it all together. We have our act together. We control everything. We just have to centralize and then throw enough money at it, and everything will work. And I think that's as we've seen, comes with a lot of bad consequences. And this is all described by Joe in his video with this institutionalization of the debasement of money. So yeah, this is maybe a long, convoluted answer to describe the economic problem. If we then go a level deeper, there's like the philosophical, which I don't know if you want to go into this, but yeah, that's probably how I would at least describe the economic problem at hand. Yeah, with some nuance added to it.
Yeah. So what I liked with Joe. So I love your answer, and I think that's like Pascal spitting knowledge right away from the start. So that's awesome to hear. What I liked about Joe's answer too, like he said, yeah, it's the separation of money and state. Like, or that was the solution to that printing, and afterwards, I had to think of Lord of the Rings, where basically the whole movie is about the humans that had the ring and were they had the obligation basically to destroy it in Mount Doom, but humans are they cannot resist the temptation of power and prestige, and even though with the best intentions and with the best like conviction, they were go to Mount Doom, but when they were there and they had to throw the ring in the fire, they choose not to do it because they couldn't resist the power and the prestige and all the things that come with it. And it's like the red button, and it's like it's basically exactly what we're doing with the fiat system. Like when it all goes to shit, then if there's a red button, we will press it. and the only way to prevent that is separating money and state. So, yeah,
And it's perfectly described. I mean, I would subscribe to this, and I think this quote from the Lord of the Rings, or this analogy, I would even go to the Bible. There is Apostle Paul, and he has this line in Romans where he says, "For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do." It's like always the opposite. Even though he kind of basically knows that maybe this is not what I want to do, I still end up doing it. And that's probably more the philosophical answer that I have, given I have a Christian background, and obviously I was brought up in this, and I'm like, okay, this is really the self-righteousness of man, across everything, all the domains that we have. I know it in my own life, exactly what Paul says. I try to do so many things. I know it shouldn't be doing this, but I do it anyways, and I feel like bad afterwards. And then also sometimes I want to play God myself, because I feel like I can take care of this. I know I will do it right. And then 2 or 3 years down the road, I figured, oh no, it wasn't probably not the right decision. And we do this nowadays on a societal level as well. And it's because like everything's centralized, that there is the possibility for people to kind of be self-righteous and act this out on a societal level, which I consider to be a really bad problem, because then if you do mess up in your own life, you hurt yourself. At least it's not that it spreads across an entire nation. And nowadays, if you have ever greater nations and supranations, and some like a caste or a cabal of a few people mess up, because they inevitably will, as you just explained, because they don't have the information, economically speaking, again, to kind of steer the system in the right direction, because they just cannot have the information, as Hayek told us. It's not possible to kind of distribute everything and then also trying to repackage it and know what to do. And so then you mess up entire lives of so many people that you never know, and so it goes back to this Jordan Peterson quote, where he also says, tidy up your own room before you kind of try to fix the world. And it's always the same, and with money, that's the same problem. And there, I think if we can kind of solve for this, and that's where I think Bitcoin comes in, and is at least trying to aspire this separation of state and money. I don't know. I'm not sure if it will really happen in 10 years' time, in 100 years' time. Maybe there's, again, my Christian background, which is sort of, I don't know if we humans will ever get our act together, but at least we have it now, and there's a shot at how we can try it, and hope in stuff like that you guys do, that we do, we can educate people, and then maybe we have a shot at solving some of this. But I mean, that's probably the main problem, philosophically speaking.
Yeah, wow. I love your addition to all of this. I'll give it over to Alessandro.
Thanks for the introduction. It's great to see also this debate between the fiat system that we had advanced. And for me, it's more we have advanced despite the fiat system, because technology was anyhow in advance. And secondly, to evaluate the real fiat system, we should see the end of the fiat system. We see where are we going. So it's like now, okay, also when we print money, in the first maybe 6 months, 1 or 2 years, everyone is happy, because everyone is, the short-term effects are positive. So people are more enthusiastic, they spend more, but the bill will come later. And I think, I don't know for our parents if they will see the hyperinflation of the fiat system, but as millennials, I'm almost certain that we will see it. It's mathematically certainty that it will hyperinflate, and likely will be in our lifetime. But we will see. We'll see.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting how everything is going to evolve, for sure. Yeah.
Francesco, Johan, should I do the next question, or up to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you often describe Bitcoin as more than a technology, a new monetary paradigm. In your view, which are the most underestimated philosophical or societal shifts Bitcoin will bring over the next decade?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's something that we thought about in our book extensively as well. And Yeah, it really comes down to the fact if Bitcoin will indeed change like human incentives, because that's, I think, which is the most important. If we want to see like lasting change, not some behavior modification, but like some actual human transformation in that sense, you know. And there, I think, it's really, it will be very interesting to see if Bitcoin is strong enough to kind of pull this off. Because maybe quickly coming back to this fiat thing, you know, I mean, Johan, you alluded to it as well. I mean, you said, you know, there's this red button, and whenever there's a crisis, people want to hit that button, you know, because it's hard to see like your neighbor maybe starving to death, and that's why you want to print money in the short term to solve a problem, you know. And so that's the thing. I mean, it's all about human incentives, and I really hope that Bitcoin kind of can change this. But then again, there's where maybe my skeptical soul comes in. It's like, okay, will humans ever be able to kind of resist that button? Even though, you know, maybe Bitcoin at some point makes it undoable in that sense. You know, that you just can't hit that button anymore because everything will be exposed, and that's what we will see. And so, as I said, it's all about the incentives that need to be changed. And in that sense, I think we've already seen a lot of change, you know, happening. Maybe not that much on the societal level yet, because I mean, you know, a lot of Bitcoiners are very much into like, oh, it's going to change the world in the sense of like, no wars will there be anymore because states cannot afford it. And there, on the societal level, I'm still not sure if we're actually seeing this. You know, maybe Bitcoin is just way too small still. I asked this question on my podcast as well to Lynn Alden, you know, because I wanted to get her answer. And she sort of said, Bitcoin is way too small to, on a societal level, vis-a-vis governments, really have this effect. You know, it would probably have to grow by a 10x, a 100x even, to kind of have this firepower to really discipline states and to make sure they're not able to print that money to fund wars. And so on that level, I think we're not seeing that many changes. It could happen in the future. That's obviously something which is up for grabs. But then I think it's obviously, if you also take this from an Austrian lens, it is the individual way how it grows. You know, it is making a difference in individual lives. And there I think we can already see it. Probably you guys know it too. You know, it's Seyfedin's argument of low time preference, you know, that really comes in. I see it in my own life. You have started always in the beginning was sort of joking with friends, you know, are we going to McDonald's? And like, no, not McDonald's. It's not that good it's fiat food anyways. And, you know, I could just put that money into Bitcoin. And they're like, wow, what's that? And then at some point you see like with protein shakes and other stuff, like, do I really need this? Or should I just put it into Bitcoin? And so that sort of starts transforming yourself. If that then translates to the societal level, you know, we could sort of even go against this consumerism mentality that a lot of people are really complaining about. You know, that modern day capitalism is just like about consumerism, not sort of thinking of the reason that it's actually, again, probably, as Joe explained, much of the fiat problem, you know, that we have this consumerism. And this way could then like sprinkle through and have a consequence in the positive in that sense. And then other things, you know, that I'm seeing, I guess, this disciplining the states. I think it is certainly possible, you know, by new jurisdictions that are popping up around the world, you know, like small Switzerland or Liechtenstein's even, you know, where you have like new jurisdictions and they're maybe made possible because of Bitcoiners who have a lot of Bitcoin and starting these sort of startup countries, you know, with Balaji in Singapore, the network state. And so this could be something which really changes society in the long term. And then politics as such is also something where we already are seeing, I think, a lot of changes, you know, with the US election last time. I think Donald Trump wouldn't be in office. That's what I firmly believe, you know, if or maybe, I don't know if it's a tough call, but it certainly helped him a lot, you know, that like he was able to target the crypto guys in that sense who spent a lot of money on his campaign as well. But there we were already seeing the influence of these people. And I mean, if that really starts doing its rounds, then I guess we can have a lot of positive influence if we use it for good as Bitcoiners as well. And so, as I said, it's all about changing these incentives, and I'm positive that Bitcoin can contribute to this.
Thanks. I agree that first of all that is too small because at the moment it's too small because the adoption that we should look in this perspective will be the adoption of people who have a decent understanding of Bitcoin. No one has a complete understanding. We'll have a complete understanding, but it's a decent understanding to have this conversation on see that Bitcoin is the solution of the future for the future. And I think we are not more than 100,000 or 200,000 people worldwide. I don't think we are more. And so I see, as you said, the grocery store, also health, gym. Now I go to the grocery store and then I look some areas and then I say, oh wow, like 95% of these areas should go away. Like
They shouldn't
yes,
exist.
It's not real food. It's just
yeah,
like a,
yes, like yes. Or if you want to have a concession uh, every from time to time, but there is not like 20 or 50 type of concession.
yeah, yeah.
We don't need so many.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, to your point, that's very interesting, that you can have more and more people reporting about being more conscious about their health, because of Bitcoin, because they are now sort of doing it. They never really challenged things in the first place. They were always taking things for granted. And now they challenged the notion of money and felt like, okay, this is something which is, I'm using money every day. And now you're telling me money is something completely different. And then this crumbles, it starts to crumble. You start to question health. You start to question the education system. You start to question everything around you, your consumption habits, your financial planning. You think differently, and even your relationships, because maybe, that's what you hear from a lot of Bitcoiners as well. Like Bitcoin wins you time. That's something that we discuss in the book as well. Just because, like, monetarily speaking, you have this asset that appreciates, and saves you time in that sense, and that frees up time again. Something which is not correct in my life just now, because I'm so excited about Bitcoin. I could work 24 hours. But I guess at some point it will happen, that I feel like, okay, now I can just more easily retire, because I know I have this asset in my cold storage, which is just going to appreciate. And this way I can care more about relationships, and I don't have to be in the rat race, of constantly making a living. And so this is also something I see where it could potentially change human.
Sure.
And always on the individual level. And it's just the Bitcoiners who embrace it. And I hopefully more and more people will look to these Bitcoiners and then say, I want to have this too. And then that's why they learn about Bitcoin.
I totally agree, but I think now it's too early because most of it takes between 1 and 2 cycles to have Bitcoin appreciation. Like you start to learn, it takes years, then it becomes a significant portion of your portfolio. In some cases, the whole portion of your portfolio. But then to really make life changing, it takes at least another cycle. So maybe I would say 2 cycles between when you start learning and what happened.
Yeah.
And most of us, at least in my case, I started to understand in 2020, 21, 22. It's still early to say it really changed the life in monetary terms. But if it goes to, and I think together with me will be many that are started to learn at that time. But once it goes to 500K, 1 million, 1.5 million, then it will be really life changes. And people who are looking at us, okay, now we have to save money for Bitcoin. When it is a 1 million, 1.5, we will make other decision because it will make less sense to work hard for a very small portion of Bitcoin versus the stack. So at that point, they will see us making different decisions. It will also be a trigger. But again, here we are too early, unfortunately for the others.
Yeah. For sure. Interesting. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Pascal, before we go into markets, because I know you love to talk about markets too, I do want to shill your book once more. Chapter 4, The Economic Murder of God. I love that chapter. And can you maybe explain to the audience what do you mean with that? And can you also add to it, like, how important is an anchor, like maybe on different levels?
Yeah, that's also my favorite chapter in the book, to be honest, because like I had this epiphany, as I said, I read a lot of philosophy during my university years. I did study political philosophy as well, and I always liked Nietzsche, and he's just so great, and in so many great lines. And then when I was researching for the book, I was reading this other book. It's called After God. It's by a U.S. philosopher. I think Mark C. Taylor is his name. And this book was mind blowing because he was explaining exactly this. Telling me that, or he was writing that when the gold anchor was destroyed, and fiat was let loose, so to say. For him, this was really the economic murder in that sense, because you killed like your anchor, and in that sense, it's almost like philosophy, like Nietzsche again, where he called out, we killed God, and now we're not knowing where we're going. Is it upwards, downwards? We're floating. Society is dissolving, and I feel like it's very apt to kind of apply this to money as well, because ever since we have lost this anchor with the economic murder of God, and for me it was really happening in 1971, where we finally cut loose, fiat from gold. Then we started spinning, and we had these hyperinflations. We had them before, but it really started to getting out of hand, and also with the money printing as such, the institutionalization and the debasement of money, as I called it. And so to me, that makes a lot of sense. Again, I said I have this Christian background. I feel like an ultimate truth makes a lot of sense, whatever you want to call it. For some, it's God. For some, it's something else. But I feel like an axiom, something which is just indefinitely true, that you can cling to, that you can also orient yourself towards, and then okay, this is what I can rebase myself against this. I sort of have a threshold to know this is correct and this is wrong. This is how far I want to go. And there, I think it's very important to have this ultimate truth that can be something else for everybody else, But to have something like this in life, I think is something that Bitcoiners appreciate as well. And having this in money again, knowing that this is this 21 million cap, we're not going to mess with this. It's just on the base layer, never more base units, so to say. This really gives you, again, this anchor, where okay, give or take what comes, I'm not even able to debase the base layer of money, and I think that's very important, and that's what Bitcoin also in that sense solved, that we now again have like a base layer of money where the human is taken out of the equation. Jameson Lopp, the great cypherpunk guy who was in Lugano as well, I think he had this very interesting line where he just tweeted once, "The purpose of Bitcoin is to nurture the man." And I feel like that's a perfect quote that describes everything that I'm trying to say. It's just you want to take humans out of the equation because we always want to play God. And by doing this, you can re-anchor yourself to something which is beyond us. And with money, it's very important that we have this sort of absolute anchor as well. And that's what we try to describe in this entire chapter 4 of the book.
Yeah, I love it because it's like the pole star. Like if you want to navigate and you don't have this, if you don't have your compass, you cannot know what like you're telling you don't know where to go, which decisions you have to make. Like, and it's such a great point. So I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Take the light tower, the poles, the North Star that you say, or the
Yeah.
lighthouse. We originally wanted to have a lighthouse on the cover of the book because we felt like this is such a strong idea
Yeah.
as well. Because if you're in a roaring sea which goes up and down, if you don't see the lighthouse, you will never know. Okay, is there like an anchor somewhere, land? Will I find my way back and stuff? And so ultimately we decided to go for the other cover, but
Yeah.
that was something we were considering as well.
Yeah, awesome. I let Alessandro ask you about the markets now.
Yes, I think also the other interesting point. Now, first we focus more the philosophical and economical part on the market. Now, the question of this second half of the year is where are we with Bitcoin and where are we versus the 4-year cycle? Do we expect this cycle to change, not to be there? What is your opinion?
Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting question. I don't say or would say I have a definite answer because I'm still thinking about this. But I tend to believe that this cycle thinking won't be that prominent anymore going forward, just because of the institutionalization that we're seeing, and maybe because Bitcoin has really become this macro asset, and I see it in the bank, ever since the ETFs arrived, something materially changed. People that have just been so skeptical all along, they were all of a sudden like, okay, now it got this vindication, and it's like, okay, it's legitimized, and now maybe I don't still understand Bitcoin, maybe I don't care, but it's just going to be here because like these overlords, BlackRock and these people sort of gave it its sign of approval. And I think that's why things have really changed. And so there's obviously always going to be like troughs and the periods where Bitcoin will probably underperform. We're currently going through something like this again, which is like very agreeable, I would say, because like Bitcoin is still above 100K and a lot of people are still sort of freaking out. But I mean, we will have this for sure. But then again, it's probably just going to be correlated with the macro ever more. And there, to me, I feel like, yeah, I really don't have a good grasp on what's happening here, because I feel like we have this easing cycle, which is underway. It feels like it will really get going, at least until the end of the year. And that's what makes me sort of positive. At the same time, we have these tariff, Trump Xi talks, which I feel like the US won't mess it up as well. They will just, in the end, try to make sure they have positive news for the market. So this is also, I think, very positive. And then at the same time, when I listen to experts that you probably listen to as well, like Michael Howell and other people, they are already telling me that we could be seeing liquidity receding, and that financial flows will sort of go away. And that would then not be very positive for Bitcoin, I would argue, and then we would maybe not have that much of a great 2026. But here I'm still very undecided to kind of really figure out where we're going. It's also something that you probably have to keep on monitoring as well, as you guys probably do as well. But I guess just like my last sentence is, in hindsight, when we look back to the year 2025, I guess what we will have established, at least when we go maybe to 2027, 2028, is that 2025 will have been this great year of consolidation. And also like offloading all the OGs, you said it before, Alessandro, at some time, maybe if Bitcoin is at 1 million, another cohort of people will have like enough wealth accumulated, and they were saying, okay, now this is life changing, I will get out of this. For some of the OGs who have bought in 2012 and 2013, I mean, that has already been the case with 100K. They have seen their wealth like 1000x or whatever. And so they're like getting out. And that's what we're seeing at the bank that I'm working as well. We have a lot of people who have sold at this 100K magic level, and like significant amounts of Bitcoin. And sometimes people I would have never thought that they have that much Bitcoin. And then now they're just offloading it and living a happy life ever after. And so I think, we're just now chewing through this wall of worry, so to say, or of selling pressure. And I think when you look at charts, I just looked at the last one by Check on Chain, where you see like it's already decreasing in that sense within this cycle. I guess at some point, all the sellers will be exhausted and there won't be any OGs anymore who still want to sell. And then again, we have consolidated. And in that sense, and that's what James also says all the time, Check on Chain, it's so amazing to see that Bitcoin is still above 100K with all these OGs selling. And so yeah, just to bring it to a close, I mean, this 2025 will probably be called the great consolidation in the history of Bitcoin, and it also prepares us to move higher to levels like 500K or 1 million K, because we have to get rid of these people who want to sell in order to move higher again. So it's just interesting to see in that sense.
Thanks. You touch many different interesting points. Totally agree that 25 feels different. In theory, if we are in the 4-year cycle, now it starts the 60% drawdown. But in 2017, 2021, we were coming from a bull run. And now we are consolidating since October. Like in December, it reached 100K. Okay, was the peak, but still is 10 months. And also, yeah, it was impressive to see 80K Bitcoin sold and Bitcoin just going minus 2 or 3%. So yeah, I agree that it will be a consolidation. I would see difficult to have a minus 60% from here. Maybe if we go to 200K, then we can see it. But after 10 months of consolidation, it's hard to see. It can happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess in the end, it probably comes down to the macro situation. If we really were to have a situation where macro deteriorates to an extent which is not unthinkable, or that we don't want, but is not unthinkable, then I feel like Bitcoin could be correcting again 60% or even 70%, just because it is this risk asset. It still has this attributes. And so I would never rule this out just because of the reflexivity that comes with this asset. But for the time being, I'm not seeing this, and because of the consolidation phases that we have, if we were to undershoot and really like go, 60% again, it wouldn't last for long, for me as well. Like 2-3 cycles ago or years ago, I wasn't paying attention to like the 200-week moving average or like the coin time price and stuff, like the realized price. Now, thanks to Johan and others, I'm sort of have figured this out, and I would be like, if we really were seeing these prices, I would heed to Sailor's advice and would start selling my kidney and like, okay, all in now,
Pick up the truck.
Yes, and that's why maybe we would see these prices, but it would not last for long. I guess so many people would take advantage of this, and then we had this like V-shaped recovery or whatever. So in that sense, it would actually be good to kind of see this bear market again and have like these on sale prices. But yeah, we never know. But I would also not rule it out in that sense. But like if everything were going according to plan and macro doesn't deteriorate, I'm with you, Alessandro. I don't think that we're just naturally correct to like 45K and then yeah.
Unless of a black swan that maybe we don't know, but is alive.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
One comment: if we sell one kidney, but then we cannot have the same protein intake, daily protein intake, so it's also against the health, right?
Oh, good. Yeah, good that you remind me. Yeah, that's maybe then where I have to sell something else.
You have to see how much is the price. No, you touch also another interesting point that in fact, I think also in the Bitcoin ecosystem now we are called everyone who sell weekends. But I think it depends. Like if you bought at 70, 80 or 125, you're panic selling, then yes. But if someone was stacking at 2K, 3K, 4K, and he was selling, maybe he was saving 1.5 thousand per month and he was buying 0.6 Bitcoin every month. Bitcoin 100K, I agree, it makes sense maybe to sell not all, but a portion to update the life. Maybe that's what many will do at 500K, 1 million. So there should be this differentiation, because selling at one point, at least a portion, for me, it's the whole point of buying Bitcoin. It's not to die with as many Bitcoin as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's true. It is the number go up technology that counts, and I mean, it's also fine, and that's, and it's the normal way of monetization of something happening like this. It would have been pre-programmed, and that's exactly how we're seeing it play out. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to see, and everyone has his own price, sort of, where he feels like, okay, now I'm out, or at least like with parts of it. Yeah.
And it's not also white and black. For example, I see also my personal 2 or 3 years ago, I was stacking more aggressively. Like I was really more looking forward to stack. Firstly, because the savings, and secondly, the price was lower and the stack was small. Now the price is higher and the stack is higher, so the percentage versus stack. So it would not be a white black. Is stack aggressively, then you stack. But yes, okay, maybe I buy something more. I keep stacking, but not as much as 3 years ago. And then at one point, okay, maybe selling a Porsche. Great.
Yeah.
Last comment before Johan, sorry. Also, the halving, we see that is 95%. I read a post where saying in 2 or 3 weeks, the halving, no, there will be 95% Bitcoin mined already. So for Bitcoin, it's fundamental. Without the halving, we will not have Bitcoin. But in terms of price actions, likely will not be so impacting anymore the supply. Johan, please, on you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I saw a video of Joe Carlasare. I don't know if you all, also saw it in his car, like warning. And he said like, all right, if you're selling your Bitcoin for like a good purpose, like go ahead, but don't sell it because you think based on time that Bitcoin will decline 50 or 60% from here, and you buy back lower. I mean, he called it moronic. But and that inspired me maybe to write an article for next Monday, because people don't realize that time is not a part of the equation for price. You know, it's demand and supply, and time is not in there, guys. So
Yeah.
and there was sorry you go.
No, just one thing, because like, yeah, I mean, selling and to buy back lower, I mean, it sounds well and nice in theory, you know, but the thing is, you don't only have to sell, and that's maybe what some people get right, you know, especially if you have been in the space for quite some time. But then you also have to buy back in, you know, and that's what many people then miss. You know, they're like, okay, now it's at 80K, it will go down to 70K, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, it's now back to 96K, and I sold at 92K, and oh, come on, and so it's like twice as hard, you know, because you also have to kind of then overcome your emotion on the downside, and just so you have to really systematize this if you want to go like this. But I just wanted to add this because that's also what happened to me back in the days as well, you know, like selling but then not buying back in, and so you're sidelined. And then
I think this is a great segue into our next topic, because how do you think about valuing or pricing Bitcoin? And I guess you're trying to build a model for that. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, that's probably the $1 trillion question everyone tries to answer. Like, how do you value Bitcoin, you know? And now that I work at this bank, you know, I'm part of an investment management. I manage the Bitcoin module, or it's a crypto module, where we also invest in other types of coins with the goal probably of outperforming Bitcoin in the end, you know. And so this is really then where it comes down to the question, okay, how do I get out of the market, come back in, and how do I make more sats in the end, you know, and generate more sats? And what I'm really at the start of this, or like I've been into this for maybe 2 years, but I feel like I'm still just scratching the surface and trying to figure things out. But where it really dawned on me is that like valuing Bitcoin is probably quite hard, because like it doesn't have these cash flows, you know, and that's why it's not as easy as maybe like valuing equities. But Bitcoin can quite neatly be priced, you know, in the sense of like, okay, you can look at history, and you, Johan, I know you do this yourself as well, where you just try to kind of with different types of analysis, you know, technical analysis, on-chain analysis, and then maybe just normal price analysis. We try to figure out, okay, from history, okay, this is the data set that I have. I apply some standard deviations, and then I'll look at a Z-score, and okay, how many times have we seen this price? And then you kind of combine it with your intuition and figure out, okay, is Bitcoin now sort of underpriced or is it overpriced? And in that sense, I came to the conclusion so far that most of the time Bitcoin is probably overpriced. It's just part of Bitcoin's nature. You know, it's always somehow overpriced, except for these like very short moments where there's a lot of fear and a lot of people have just freaked out. And maybe a couple of days ago with the deleveraging event, one such event was happening again, because then in the short term, it might have been actually underpriced, even though from a fundamental perspective, I would say it was still overpriced. For me, maybe where it's really underpriced would be, again, if it were at its realized price, its true market mean or something like this, then you could really say Bitcoin is now fairly priced in that sense. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. What type of pricing models can we apply, and how to think that through, then also hook it up with some macro formulas, where you try to track liquidity and, more importantly, maybe fiscal flows and stuff like this. And in that sense, you could try to systematize and build a model further down the road, which I think many people are trying to do. The Bitcoin layer guys, you do it, Check on Chain. There's like many, many interesting people out there. And we can all profit from each other, I guess. And probably in 10 years' time, we'll look back and we will have developed quite some interesting models. But it's this ongoing journey, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I learn every day, and but also it changes. It changes over time. So I think you keep reinventing your models and your systems, and the way you look to price and to Bitcoin, and and also with probable systemic risks like quantum computing, like how do you value then, and or how do you value it if the whole community come to consensus to deal with that problem? Because I read Charles Edwards saying like gold is quantum resistant and Bitcoin isn't yet, so Bitcoin shouldn't be larger than gold. And I thought, okay, that's that's an angle that I can understand, and I maybe even agree with. So
Yeah.
so there's all these these really interesting angles that you can look at.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Yeah, I heard this argument made on a philosophical level also. Like Bitcoin in the end is an abstraction, and like if it like big gold exists independent of like laws of nature, in that sense, or like the laws of nature would have to change, I guess, and then gold would have a problem, But with Bitcoin, I guess it's really it's a mathematical abstraction, and you have to uphold it in that sense. And this is maybe something you don't have to do with gold, because once you get it out of the ground, it just exists due to the laws of nature. And that's a great way to put it as well with the quantum resistance. But maybe just one last sentence coming back to look pricing and value of Bitcoin. I mean, we can tie it all back to the beginning, with human beings trying to be self-righteous and try to play God. This is also that I figured out, having invested for the last 10, 12 years. The hodling meme, it's so strong, but it's so true. It's in traditional finance, we call it buy and hold. It's been that old. It's just been reinvented in Bitcoin, and like it's so true if you look at this, because finance, it's so complex, so many variables coming together. I always keep telling myself, if I look at other people trying to read the market, it's all storytelling. It's very interesting. We kind of tell interesting stories to each other. We have something to do. Johan, you have a newsletter. I have. People like to be entertained, but in the end, it's all entertainment, because we all don't know. And in that sense, I just want to say again, that's probably where we try to play God as well, figuring things out. And that's also where then sometimes I have to reconsider myself and tell my friends, okay, in the end, with the largest amount of your stack, just hodl. Just don't try to time the market. It's maybe for intellectual curiosity and here and there, like gambling, speculating, but just hodl, because that's what happened with everything, not just with Bitcoin, in traditional markets as well. People who have hodled, they are the ones coming out wealthy again, just because they're weathering the storm and they're not letting themselves be swayed by emotions. And so, it's again this philosophical angle. When you take yourself back as a human and just let nature do its course, or its thing, it probably turns out well. Especially if you have like something like Bitcoin, where you, at least on the theoretical level, have kind of understood what this is doing, and then you can sit back and enjoy the ride, so to say,
Yeah, I had this gladiator flashback. Are you not entertained?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Just a few seconds to remind to our listeners that this podcast is sponsored by Bitvolt, bitvolt.sv. I invite you to head over to the site. It's the first Bitcoin wallet solution to solve the problems of physical attacks and hacks, thanks to our time delay over multi-sig technology. The beta is for free, coming out in October. I invite you to head over to the site and leave your email to get notified. Thank you very much.
We're already approaching almost towards 60 minutes, so I'll let ask Alessandro his last question.
Yes, firstly, a comment. It's very important, Pascal, that you said the largest part should be hold, and then also human in nature, we want to do something. So be interesting about a bit of a price when I can do it. So it will be okay if it is a small portion of the holding. Also, because with Bitcoin, all what you said is true, but Bitcoin has another level of complexity. For example, last year and this year, as Michael Saylor said, there are 8 or 10 days where all the gains of the year are made. And the only period was predictable was after Trump elected. If Trump was elected, then Bitcoin went up. But it went from 50K to 70K at the end of February 2024. And in July, it went from 105 to 122 without any really big news, without no one saying, okay, now it's going up. It just went up. So it's quite hard also.
Yeah, that's an amazing stats. That's one of the most interesting ones. Just that you have to point out all the time. Like if you miss these few days, I did these calculations for the bank as well. If you only miss like the 10 most profitable days, then your performance comes down significantly. And if you miss the 20 most profitable days, you're like over the past few years, it's almost like. It's like whatever, kind of like a bond, 10-year bond, no performance anymore. And so you're like, okay, I rather don't be too cocky trying to time the market. It's this old saying, timing in the market beats timing the market,
Probably the richest people will be among the richest people will be those who lost the keys because they cannot send.
Yes.
They see it also with brokerage accounts. Really, like that they see like the best performing brokerage accounts turn out to be people who are dead.
Yeah, the dead people.
And
That's
true.
at the bank as well.
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
dead people are the best investors. That's true. Exactly.
Last question from my side, Pascal, is how will Bitcoin adoption unravel going forward?
Yeah, that's also something that I've been thinking about quite extensively. I mean, there again, I have my own subjective answer, but I feel like I'm trying to think through because I feel like Bitcoin will be ever more integrated into the traditional financial system. This is also something we explained in chapter 7 of the book, where we almost heretically called it, will Bitcoin make fiat great again in that sense, by sort of remonetizing the whole debt system that we have when you take Bitcoin and you fuse it up with like traditional products, and then you have like this like battery that Saylor always talks about in your product, which sort of reloads the entire engine again, and I feel like this will really happen. But I have been working in this bank and they have been in Bitcoin crypto for 6 years. One of the first banks in Switzerland who has really onboarded companies, clients, OGs, startups, foundations, everything, and they know Bitcoin in and out. That we have a huge team, over 20 people who are very well versed in Bitcoin and crypto, which for a bank is like, dude, it's almost a fifth of our sort of employees, and so that's amazing. And even in that bank, it is a traditional bank, 95 years old, we have been trying for a couple of years to make it work, that you can borrow against Bitcoin, like really allow for Bitcoin native services, and we haven't really been able to figure it out and really make it work. And that's probably because it is a legacy bank. Other banks, like our competitors in Switzerland, Signum, I think in Lugano, they just announced that they will be working together with Debify, enabling a very interesting product, And so there are banks who are moving forward here, but I feel like for most of the banks, and that's again where I come from, I feel like it will still take time, So like bringing Bitcoin into the financial system will be hard, and that's why I feel like we are jump starting this other first layer for me, or first phase, which is still the SoV, the store of value discovery. We have to make Bitcoin a real contender for base layer money, and that's where I feel like the first step will still about in the next few years will still be about rerouting old capital from traditional assets into Bitcoin. And you won't only be selling these assets. You will kind of try to mortgage your house. I mean, Johan and you and me, we talked this through. You will maybe take a Lombard loan on your shares, your pension portfolio, and then with part of the money, you will park it in Bitcoin. And in that sense, we will kind of rewire these old assets into Bitcoin. And then maybe once Bitcoin is really at 5, 7, 10 trillion market cap, I think that's where the other phase then really kicks off. The one where we see it borrowing against Bitcoin, it will happen here and there. But I feel like this other phase first has to kind of play out in its entirety. And then I feel the financialization will really pick up. And then the third phase for me would be from there, we start developing like real native credit system on Bitcoin itself, maybe on the protocol itself, with Lightning nodes, and we will have Bitcoin-backed commercial paper, working capital loans, all different types of things, where then this is the last, or that can really set us up for the last phase where Bitcoin MOE, like the medium of exchange adoption, can really happen, because I feel like we need this elastic money layer on top of Bitcoin for Bitcoin to be really usable as a medium of exchange. Otherwise, it will never happen, because it didn't happen like this with gold. There was also an elastic layer on top of it. And so, I think that's how, like broadly speaking, how I think Bitcoin adoption will take its course.
Thanks. Yep, interesting. Good that the progress for the financialization. I agree. It takes time, especially in Europe. Probably US will lead again. There are banks now. They are discussing to accept crypto as collateral. Also, we saw JP Morgan, after several years being against. Everyone will be bending the knee. JP Morgan is doing. In Europe will happen as well. But we need to be patient on this. Also, doesn't happen every year or every decade or every century, a new monetary system. So
yes, exactly. Yes, you're right.
Thanks, Pascal.
Yeah, so I had one last question, but I now have another last question, so I can ask questions all day long. But I'm going to switch my last question. Alessandro and me were walking next to the lake of Lugano, and we talked about the quantum threat. And we also talked about financial instruments or building on Bitcoin, but with this sort of Damocles hanging above Bitcoin's future. And I'm alluding to the coins of Satoshi that may get mined. And I really want to know what you think, and maybe also working at a bank that, look, if those coins come online in very quickly, and I don't think it will be the end of Bitcoin, but it could bring price much lower. But if we're now building on Bitcoin and with financial instruments with a loan to value of 50%, which seems good right now, if the price doesn't have drawbacks of 70% anymore. But like, can we build on Bitcoin if there's something huge still hanging above its head? And is the bank, is your bank or other banks that you know of waiting for this, or are they thinking about this?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, not specifically this quantum threat. I think this is not something the people, maybe some of the people have thought about, but maybe they're not that deep into the weeds. This is probably for me to bring up as well at some point. And I feel, it obviously is this significant risk that will be faced at some point, and it will probably come due, and it will wreak havoc, and Bitcoin won't die, as you said, but it will materially set back the price, that's for sure. And then exactly, if a whole financial system is built on top of it, then that could bring down lots of people, lots of the leveraging and everything. And that's exactly my point, where I think we're not yet ready for this. I think Bitcoin will have to be at 10 trillion. And then maybe we have already eaten through this Satoshi stack, 1 million coins, which have come back to the market, because I can maybe talk to the collateralization of Bitcoin, or borrow against Bitcoin and putting it up as collateral. I mean, they're like my colleagues from the traditional world of finance, they're like, it's all good and well. We can optimize everything. It's very interesting. We don't have to work on weekends because, again, it's possible to optimize and systematize everything. But, what if liquidity kind of vanishes all of a sudden? And they always point.
We saw it. Yeah.
We saw it just recently, and I mean back in March 2020, during the Corona crisis,
Yes,
that's
50%.
where people really point you and they say, this is exactly the thing. We as a traditional bank, we have to be liquidating then. But if the market makers just withdraw all of a sudden, and this is not something that they know from traditional finance, because there you have this regulation and it's all these circuit breakers and everything, Again, this is what Bitcoin is about. It is about free market in that sense, but then because you have this free market, you have the possibility for market makers to kind of withdraw at the worst time, which then is again hard for traditionals who have not been used to this to kind of really put their word out there and say, okay, we're now behind this and we want to scale this out in huge quantities, services like this. And that's exactly it. And I think that's why I think we still have many years in front of until something like this will really become true, because Bitcoin will probably always have a Damocles sword above itself, but maybe not as heavy as these very obvious ones, as you just mentioned with the quantum thing. And so, once these are out of the way, then I feel more comfortable. And I guess that's exactly what will take maybe another 10 years or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Pascal. I really enjoyed the conversation. You have so much knowledge about Bitcoin, but also like philosophy and financial history. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Yes, thanks, guys. It was amazing, and all good, all the best, and good luck. And with the podcast as well, I've seen you had some great guests on as well already. So just keep on pushing as we all do, and hope to see you guys in real life soon again.
Yeah. So where can people find you? Where can people buy your book? Where can people find you?
Well, the book you can buy off of Amazon. There's like a German Amazon.de, like for Europe, and then there's also Amazon.com for the international people. Just type in the Bitcoin Enlightenment, and you'll find the book. You can also buy it from the Safe House. That's our publisher. Exactly.
I bought it with Safe. Yeah.
Yes, you can also buy it there. And then, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn, on X, over my website, on YouTube. Just Google Less Noise, More Signal, or my name, and I guess you will be shown into you will be pointed in my direction, and I would be happy to connect with anyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Pascal. Thanks, Pascal, for joining. Really nice conversation. I enjoyed. Now let's see next month or next years how they will play out.
Yes,
Amsterdam.
exactly.
Amsterdam.
Yes, Amsterdam. Yes, we'll be seeing each other.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.